Huawei is currently spying on 3 billion people, as this is the case in the span of just a few years, Huawei becoming the largest telecommunications company in the world. The company started out small, selling cheap telephone switches in the 1980s in rural China. As we all know, a company like Apple is famously known for its security, which they pride themselves on guiding their users' privacy, and even fought the FBI to keep their devices secure. However, Huawei is a different story. This is the story of how Huawei grew into a business with annual revenue of more than $100 billion, with questioned ambition, government support, and with most evil business tactics. Huawei was established in 1987 by former Chinese Army engineer Ren Zhengfei, who has served as CEO since 1988. His military experience had a significant impact on Huawei's management style, which led to the creation of the company's wolf culture. Because of the generous financial incentives for growing the business, the company outfitted a large industrial building with workspaces and a kitchen. Beds were set up against the walls and mattresses placed on the floors. Employees worked grueling hours, sleeping and eating on site. Within a year, it built its own telephone switching system. Huawei's early products were cheap and often broke down, but the company made a name for itself with its attentive customer service, getting equipment up and running again quickly. In the decades that followed, Huawei continued to improve its products and introduce new ones, such as smartphone, and it began expanding internationally, sending executives to developing markets in Africa, South America, and Asia. Huawei has become the largest telecommunications company in the world, with the company recently replacing Apple as the second largest smartphone manufacturer in the world, generating over $100 billion a year. It seems like this is just because their products are good, with their phones being cheap, reliable, and having a slick build. But when you start looking into this more, you start to think, how is this actually possible? The telecommunications industry is completely saturated, and the mobile phone market is almost impossible to break into. But Huawei has somehow managed to take over the industry by storm. So doesn't this seem just a little too perfect? Well, that's because it is. In fact, there's some quite disturbing reasons they've been so successful, and it's the reason that governments around the world are doing everything they can to stop this company from growing. And the first part of this reason is the Chinese government was aware of Huawei's potential very early on and was constantly keeping an eye on the company, because at the time China was a country that was rapidly developing. Huawei was a promising new company with over 500 researchers working to establish their technological dominance in China. This ambition from Huawei wasn't ignored, because China had long followed the 2049 plan, a goal for the country put out by the brutal tyrant Mao. They had been progressively recuperating from the numerous hazards they had encountered during the 20th century. Like Stalin and Hitler, Mao envisioned a China that would reclaim its presumptive rightful position at the top of the globe. So as to expedite Mao's 2049 goals, the corporations that enticed China the most, both in terms of current growth and potential control, were the blossoming tech companies such as Huawei, which isn't all that surprising given that controlling technology allows for control of information. And as the old adage goes, knowledge is power. Knowledge gives China enormous leverage over everyone and would allow it to flourish under the watchful eye of the state. China would embrace an efficient blend of capitalism and communism. Traded industry would be allowed to thrive. So if you're running a huge company like Huawei, the Chinese government says, especially as the benefits of the growing tech in the industry were becoming more and more clear to the CCP, the main benefit being soft power China wants to invest in. All users' information have to be stored on their servers. The first task the CCP assigned to Huawei was to improve China's technological infrastructure, which they accomplished in a matter of a few short years through a number of lucrative government contracts. Huawei gave China a cutting-edge telecommunications system, and as wireless technological developments advanced further, China would use Huawei to increase their power both at home and abroad, in addition to maintaining control over domestic operations. And this was the next part of the 2049 plan. If they were going to become a developed economy, they were going to need a lot more resources, and China sees that in Africa. Africa's population of 1.1 billion people is expected to double by then, and the continent's rich natural resources already fuel China's economy, data harness, and control plans. The cornerstone of Chinese internet censorship is the Great Chinese Firewall, a digital iron curtain that restricts access to a wide range of foreign websites. This system is also referred to as the Great Firewall of China. The Chinese government can control the internet and shield its citizens from harmful content thanks to this censorship engine. At least that's what they say. The Chinese government doesn't want anyone utilizing a VPN. That's why Apple had to ban VPN apps on Chinese iPhones. because it is their most effective instrument for maintaining their authoritarian rule. Doing so would allow you to get around at least some firewall restrictions. Huawei is now under the hands of the Chinese government. They are free to manage the business operations, which makes software power extremely vital to China. There is nothing genuinely blocking the CCP from viewing a Huawei user's phone data or tracking the whereabouts now that they are widely used throughout the world. In fact, there has been a long-standing need for China to have this kind of huge control and surveillance over the whole world. This leaves Huawei users to the hands of China. Huawei's global track record is dogged by allegations of bribery, corruption, and the pursuit of foreign political interference. According to a February 2018 report from RWR Advisory Group, a Washington-based consulting firm that tracks China and Russia's global business transactions. The United States placed Huawei on an export blacklist in 2019, banning the telecom giant from buying components and technology from U.S. companies without U.S. government approval. Profits fell 42.45% in the same period to approximately $3.8 billion. Based on Reuters' calculation, a drop a company spokesperson attributed to investment in research and development and new business areas. The move largely hobbled Huawei's handset business, which commanded 42% of the China market in 2019. The company is now a bit player behind rival, including its former budget unit Honor, which it sold in 2020. Huawei is trying to open up new markets and businesses after U.S. tech export restrictions gutted its smartphone business briefly as the world's largest and curtailed the sale of advanced gear in developed markets. Among those trade restrictions is a ban on contract chipmakers producing semiconductors designed by Huawei, effectively kneecapping its high silicon design business. Be sure to watch our next video. Subscribe and leave a comment on what's your take on the illegal rise of Huawei. See you in our next video. Bye-bye.